Movements like these, the big lifts, they help you to get strong and jacked. While movements like these, the little lifts, help you to stay fresh and resilient and enable you to keep training hard. In this video, I'm gonna go over my top 7 prehab moves that I do in my training that have made a massive difference in my ability to stay pain-free and injury-free. Let's get right into it. So rehab is short for rehabilitation, whereas prehab is short for prehabilitation. You use rehab exercises to recover from an injury or pain in a certain area, whereas you use prehab exercises to shore up and strengthen weak links to help to prevent those injuries from ever happening in the first place. Now, the cause of pain and injuries is going to be multifactorial, meaning that there's a lot of other factors involved beyond a muscle being weak or tight. But challenging and loading these areas that tend to get banged up when you get after it in the gym can still be extremely helpful to encourage blood flow and build up durability and resiliency in these areas. With all that being said, let's get into the first of my top 7 prehab exercises that I do on a weekly basis. All right, so my first move is going to be a calf raise, either double leg or single leg, off of some sort of elevation. So you can use a stack of plates like this, or an aerobic step, or even just a step in general. All right, so what you're gonna do is get next to a supported surface here. You're gonna come up here, and then the big thing is to really get a stretch in your calves as big as you can before coming back up and getting up to the top as tall as you can. Now from this top position, what I'm really thinking about is not winging out to the sides here or not collapsing inwards, just trying to press through equally throughout the ball of my foot. All right, so I don't want to like favor any deviation from side to side. I'm just going straight up to the middle for now. All right, so I go all the way up here, really get a good contraction, and then come back down. This is where the beauty is. Get a deep, deep, deep stretch before coming all the way back up again. All right, let's do a few more. Now, if you want to progress it even more, what you can do is just go on a single leg. All right, so you can be right here, lower down, and then come all the way back up. Lower down, and come all the way back up. And notice my tempo here, I'm not bouncing out of it. I'm not doing these quickly, I'm doing these really slowly. Really mind muscle connection on the calves throughout the whole movement. So I'm thinking stretch, 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 stretch here, and then contract, 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 contract right here. Really going to the full range of motion, all the way up at the top, all the way at the bottom each time, and using a slow, smooth tempo throughout it. Now, another benefit that you get from this is that you're also getting ankle mobility, you're getting half stretch mobility here, so you're getting a lot of good benefits in your lower limbs while also strengthening and shoring up these areas. So if you are a runner, an athlete that has a need to train your calves, your Achilles, your feet, this is definitely going to be one that you include into your week of training. All right, so move number 2 is going to be for the adductors, adductors. All right, so this is going to be great for anyone who plays soccer, hockey, anyone who needs groin strength in general, kickers, punters, things along those lines. So we're going to start off with the Copenhagen plank. I'm going to show you a few different variations, but let me start you off with the simplest one to start. So what you're gonna do is get set up with this leg bent, this top leg bent at a 90-degree angle. And then from there, you're treating this like a side plank, but it just so happens that your top leg is elevated and your bottom leg is straight and underneath the bench. All right, so from there, you're gonna get up into a standard side plank position, and you're thinking knee to the crown of your head is a long straight line. All right, so we're not trying to crouch here. We're trying to get long and tall, trying to get your hips up really high, and you're getting a ton of groin stability benefits here. So when you're doing exercises like squats and lunges, and even like lateral lunges to a good degree, you are working your adductors, but this is a really direct way to target that area in a mindful way as well. Like if you're doing Bulgarian split squats, you're not necessarily thinking about your adductors, you're just thinking about how much it burns. But for this, you can really hone in on your groin strength, and it's a really good way to develop control and stability in that area. Now, if you want to up the ante even a little bit more, you can go with a longer lever. So you can straighten out that leg and do the same movement. You're gonna be right here and lift straight up. All right, so same concept, except now you're with a longer lever. Obviously, this is gonna be a little bit more of a trickier position to be in because it's going to be a longer lever. Now, finally, to add an element of dynamic stability to this equation, we can do short lever and long lever dips where we're actually moving back and forth. All right, so this is what it'll look like. You'll be right here, Get to the short lever position, lift up, and then you can just dip back and forth, just like that. So now you're getting a lot. We worked the hip adductors and the abductors. Now we're working the hip flexors, where we're bringing our knee up high. All right, so this time you're gonna grab a mini band. You're gonna put it around your You're gonna put it around your toes, and then from there, you're gonna lay on your back like this. All right. Now your goal here is to just get nice and long and tall, and you're going to bring one knee as high as possible up towards your chest. And your goal here is to bring this knee, not just to like here, you wanna try to bring it towards your belly button. You want more than 90 degrees of hip flexion in order to get the psoas and get true full range hip flexion. All right, so you're gonna hold it here for a couple seconds and then bring it back. Now you can switch sides, you can alternate sides, or you can stick with the same side, all right? And you can go 5-second holds, whatever feels good, really. And you're just trying to feel a sensation throughout this hip crease area, all right? Now let's say you don't have access to a band. You can simply just place your hand on your thigh like this, pull up, and resist yourself from coming in too close by pushing this hand away. And you're getting the same exact benefits. All right, again, you can do them on the same side, or you can alternate sides. But a lot of times when people are sitting, they are, let's say, less than 90 degrees of hip flexion, right? So we wanna try to get this top end area here of hip flexion strengthened, because we don't really come across this in our everyday lives, but we do want to be prepared and strengthen these areas because it is a muscle group as well. So that's why it is number 4 of my top 7 prehab exercises that I do on a weekly basis. All right, 3 more exercises. For this one, we're gonna get down on the floor and do some lower back extensions, or Supermans as they're more commonly referred to. Now, when people have lower back pain, they're often a little nervous and apprehensive to move their lower back and strengthen the lower back. And a lot of people have lower back pain, but it's important to note that the lower back also has muscles in that area, and it's important to strengthen those areas and not shy away from it. All right, so I'm gonna show you a quick little progression that you can do for people who have pretty bad back pain to people that are not in pain but would just like to strengthen their lower backs. All right, so let's get started on your stomach like this. In the traditional Superman, you have your arms all the way out, legs all the way out, and you're extending both at the same time, all right? That can be a little bit unapproachable for some people. So what you wanna do is go hands down here. And that just reduces the load on your back a little bit. You're gonna keep your feet flat on the floor, and then you're just gonna lift up like that, all right? Now try not to crank at first, try to go slowly, and don't worry about your range of motion. So it might look like this. Just like that, just nice and slow, under control, and eventually you can get more and more range and really squeeze your lower back muscles. So you can be there, then you can be here, and then finally over here. And then if you want to include the legs, you can go back to arms down low, and then include the legs. Arms here, and then include the legs. And then arms over here finally for the full Superman that most people start with, right here. All right, so by doing that, you're getting a lot of good benefits throughout your lower back. You're getting a lot of good extension benefits. And I like to use this before my deadlifts for the day, just to warm up the muscle group, just to get some blood flow going in that area before just throwing on, a couple 100 pounds on the bar and deadlifting right away. This is just a good way to kind of prime the pump before going into it. All right, so just 2 more left. This one is going to be for the rotator cuff. All right, so you're gonna wrap a band around a pole, a squat rack upright, anything along those lines. And then from there, you're gonna bring your arm out at a 90-90 position. So 90 degrees from your forearm to your upper arm, and then 90 degrees from my upper arm here down to my body, okay? So 90-90 position. You're gonna try to keep your rib cage down as you externally rotate up and work your external rotators, and then come back down, just like this. So it's a 90-90 position, and the tough part about this movement is keeping your elbow in the same spot. A lot of people, their initial tendency is going to be to use their lat and kind of crank down like this and kind of fake that external rotation, whereas they're actually just using their lat to kind of get that movement. Keep your arm up high, keep your rib cage down as you go through this range of motion, okay? Now, as you're doing this, you should ideally feel some sensation along this area of your back and also maybe a little bit back over here, all right? So you're trying to get your posterior part of your shoulder with each and every rotation. Now, there's tons of different rotator cuff exercises out there. There are, these. There's the ones where you're lying on a bench and you're kind of doing something like that. There's one where you're supported and you're doing something like that. I really like this one as a little bit of a change of pace because you really do have to control your shoulder in open space without any support, any stability, and challenge your own dynamic stability as you're going through that range of motion. So that's why this is one of the top moves that I do on a weekly basis. Drum roll, please. The last prehab move is going to be for the knees. These are gonna be step downs. Now, one thing that I used to do, I used to have actually pretty bad knee pain, and sometimes I still do, some tendonitis in my knees. And the information around 10 years ago when I first started training was to keep the knee relatively over the ankle and keep what's known as a vertical tibia. So right here, you're coming down, keeping this shin vertical. And this takes a lot of pressure off the knee, and it felt great. So I did a lot of moves where I was squatting, Romanian deadlifting, hip thrusting, where my shin was stuck in this more vertical position. But now, as years have progressed, and ultimately to, let's say, knees over toes guy right now, has brought a lot more popularity to the idea that you actually need to expose your body to these ranges of motion if you want to be prepared for it in everyday life and in athletics. And so nowadays what I'm doing is to prep my knees for, let's say, a squat day or a deadlift day or lunges. I like to do some step downs before. So this is what I do. I get set up on a stack of plates or a step, whatever I have available. And all I'm doing with support here is getting tall, coming down, and letting my knee go as far forward as I'm comfortable. And then I come back up and squeeze my quad. All right, so I'm coming down slowly, feeling my quad, feeling my knees work, and then come back up. All right? Now, as I'm doing this, I am getting pressure in the front of my knee, but if it's ever too much, I can just reduce the amount of distance, right? So I can just take a plate off, like this, and just work that range of motion. All right? I don't even have to touch the floor. As long as I'm getting some level of load while my knee is going forward. That's going to be beneficial for this more of a knees over toes position. All right, so this is going to be super helpful if you're going to be squatting. Let's say if you're a cyclist or a runner or a sprinter, everyone needs to get their knees over their toes. And so this trains that pattern and gets your joints, gets all the ligaments in here in a more resilient position because you are actually loading them and training that quality. And that's why it is my last of my top 7 qualities to train in a prehab perspective. So that's all I have for you today. We hit the calves, the hip adductors, the hip abductors. We've got your lower back, your rotator cuff. We got your knees. So I think that's all 7. So we got all those prehab moves in, but if you are feeling anything in any other areas, maybe it's your wrists, maybe it's your ankles, maybe it's your hamstrings, whatever it might be, it would be wise to include some more prehab style movements where you're really isolating, getting mind muscle connection, getting blood flow in that area on a weekly basis. And it doesn't have to be long. Like it can be, for each of these moves throughout my week of training, I'm probably doing it for like 5 minutes. So all in all, that's 35 minutes throughout my week of training, and it just helps me to be really fresh and resilient and keep my training going on strong, because if all I did was heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, and just machine-based work, over time, things would just start to feel a little bit finicky and a little bit achy. And so these things help me to be more resilient and help me to keep training really hard in the gym and really get after it. All right. But if you like this video and you like other videos in relation to athleticism, functional training, injury prevention, things along those lines, mobility work, then stay tuned to this channel, subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you in the next one.